To Dust. Written by Kristen Mullings. 2025 copyright. Chapter 25, Ebonwake. Kael's flames didn't waver, even when the sky broke open. The clouds over the spires had curdled to obsidian, splitting with veins of white-blue lightning that forked across the horizon like the world's nerves laid bare. Something stirred in the heavens, something vast and waiting. But down here, in the path carved by ash and defiance, we moved forward. The trial of Threadfire had rethreaded something inside me, yes. But it also shattered illusions I didn't know I still carried. There was no salvation waiting in the folds of fate, only truth. And that truth marched with us now, as we descended from Nehemeth, and followed the cracked road toward the Ebonwake. Ebonwake. The dead channel between the known realms and the abyssal plains, where failed gods whispered, and the pacts of unclean blood were forged. Where Kael's true name had once been branded into him. I remember this place, he murmured, voice hoarse from memories that clawed. You were taken here. I was made here. The land around us had no wind, no sun. Just a yawning stillness, like breath held too long. The road ahead splintered into fractured paths, each marked by bone stakes crowned with sigils of descent, wings cleaved, eyes sewn shut, crowns of glass shattered at the base. Kael's grip on his sword tightened, his flames drawn into a narrow arc at the blade's edge. They'll smell what you carry, he said. Threadfire. Power. Purity. Defiance. It all stinks to them. I let my own power whisper across the weave. Threads pulsed beneath my skin, glowing faintly with a violet gold light. Let them come. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. We passed the gates of Ebonwake at dusk, though no sun marked the fall. Here, dusk was a memory, an eternal hour caught between forgetting and awakening. The city was carved into the black canyon walls, buildings hollowed from obsidian veins, and lit by soul braziers that burned with hues no mortal tongue could name. Figures drifted through the streets, warlocks bound in silence, revenants cloaked in chain mist, infernals with cracked halos flickering behind their horns. None of them met our eyes, but all of them felt us. Kael's shadow was no longer his own, it stretched unnaturally, limbs too long, like something inside him was remembering how to crawl. They are watching us, I said. They've always been watching, he replied. But now they fear you. At the heart of Ebonwake stood the pit of unbinding, a temple, prison, and altar all in one. It pulsed with a heartbeat that didn't belong to the world. This was where names were stripped. Where beings came to sacrifice memory, identity, and will for power. We stepped into the pit, and a dozen pale eyes turned toward us, elders of the infernal accord, beings whose souls had long since frayed from mortal definitions. They didn't speak. They simply waited. Kael dropped to one knee. I return unshackled. The oldest, her spine coiled with silver thorns, tilted her head. Yet still bound. Kael stood. I've chosen my chain. He looked at me. I didn't flinch. The circle of elders rippled. Threads in the air shifted, became tense. She bears Threadfire. She is not one of us. I stepped forward. I am what you fear. I am what your pacts failed to erase. Then you are threat. Then test me. The pit trembled. Suddenly the floor split open, revealing a lower chasm filled with black flame, embers of broken oaths and shattered gods. From it rose a being forged from pact remnants, a writhe-fiend, stitched together from the contracts and promises of 1,000 liars. It lunged. Kael shouted, drawing his flame, but I was faster. My threads snapped outward, weaving a dome of light and shadow. I wove truth into the pattern, no lies, no feints. Just raw intent. The writhe-fiend struck the dome and screamed as its body unraveled. It didn't bleed. It spilled. Paper, ink, sigils, broken seals. All the oaths it was made from spilled across the floor, catching fire as my threads turned their broken promises into fuel. When the silence returned, I stood alone in the center. The elders regarded me. She is not of pact. She is beyond pact. Kael moved beside me again. She is the future you tried to bury. The silver-thorned one lowered her head. Then let the chains fall. Let the Ebonwake close. A sound like 1,000 locks snapping echoed through the pit. And Kael. Kael screamed. His back arched, his horns split wider, darker. The mark that once branded him peeled away like burning skin. I held him. My threads formed a lattice around his soul, keeping him whole as the last of the pact left him. He collapsed into me, breath shallow, eyes wide. "You're free," I whispered. "No," he murmured. "I'm yours." And I wept. When we left Ebonwake, the skies above were no longer black. A crack of pale light split the horizon, a wound, maybe. Or a beginning. Kael walked beside me, no longer haunted, no longer chained. And I had not simply woven threads. I had rewritten law. And the world felt it. Something ancient stirred far to the east. Something waking. But we would meet it, together. Thread-bound and fire-forged. And this time, we would not be unmade. Chapter 26, Ebonvale. The sky above the hollow mirror had gone dark again. Not from nightfall, but something else, a veil drawn across the heavens, dimming even the memory of light. Clouds twisted like scorched silk, unraveling threads that shimmered red at the edges. Kael stood with his back to me, his silhouette etched in the stormlight, horns outlined like a crown of defiance. "It's waking up," he said without turning. The mirror pulsed, a throb beneath the earth, as if something far older than our world had stirred from slumber. I stepped forward, my hands trembling but not from fear. "Not anymore. It knows we've passed the trial," I said. "The tapestry is folding in on itself. We are near the heart now." Kael finally looked back. The shadow in his eyes wasn't dread. It was mourning. The heart might not be what we think it is. We traveled westward to the final known anchor point, Ebonvale, an ancient heir in the weave said to be where the gods first broke pact with mortals. It was a dead place, untouched by time, rumor, or memory. And it called to me with every step. Along the path, remnants of shattered worlds whispered from the ground. Broken statues of gods no longer worshipped. Pieces of thread glass that flickered with frozen screams. Each time I stepped on one, a vision sparked. A child, me, trapped in a burning house, screaming for a mother already fading. A demon prince with fire in his mouth, dragging chains behind him, eyes blind with grief. A tower of bone and silk, rising from the sea, crowned with a blood eclipse. Kael pulled me from the last vision. I didn't remember falling. "They are showing you what they want you to remember," he said. "Not just that," I said breathlessly. "They are testing what I refuse to forget." He touched my cheek, and the threads beneath my skin sparked like a struck match. Ebonvale was not a place. It was a state of being. We reached the edge of the rift just before the sky split open. Lightning crawled like roots across the clouds, threading the air with veins of raw fate. Below us, the land collapsed inward, a spiral of petrified flesh, stone altars, and ancient bones. "This is where the first witch severed her tether to the gods," I whispered. "This is where choice was born." Kael didn't speak. His hands were clenched. He could feel it too. The weight. The reckoning. We stepped into the spiral. Ebonvale was alive. With every step, I felt it press against my mind, peeling back layers of self. It whispered in every voice I had ever known. Seren, daughter of the lost. Seren, breaker of patterns. Seren, who bears the heart of thread and fire. The ground writhed beneath our feet, stitched together with tendons and thread. Spires of obsidian bone jutted out from the abyss, their surfaces slick with blood ink runes. The deeper we went, the more reality fragmented. Kael flickered beside me, his form shifting in and out of the spectrum. One moment whole, the next a silhouette of pure infernal power. "The veil's too thin here," he said through gritted teeth. "It's pulling the demon in me loose." I grabbed his hand. "Then let me anchor you." The pact between us pulsed, a rhythm that cut through the distortion. I poured thread fire into him, not to suppress, but to balance. Our bond shone like a tether in the void. He looked at me with something between awe and pain. "You're not the same girl who hesitated to bind a thread." "I'm not the same anything." At the heart of Ebonvale stood the obsidian loom. It wasn't a device. It was a being. Or perhaps a prison. It towered above us, shaped like a broken throne woven of infinite spools. Its occupant, or prisoner, was bound by coils of gleaming silk, pierced by blades of divine metal. Its face was masked by a mirror, but the presence it radiated was unmistakable. The first weaver. Kael recoiled, flame brimming at his fingertips. They said it died in the sundering. No, I said. It was hidden. To protect the choice it made. The mirror mask turned toward me. Threads spilled from its fingertips, weaving scenes from my life in the air, my birth, my first binding, the moment Kael bled for me, the fire trial, the thread-bound test. Then, the threads unraveled. You have passed every gate. Broken every law. Rewritten the old song. Its voice wasn't a voice. It was a feeling, a truth, a decree. The time has come to choose, become the loom, or unmake it. Kael stepped in front of me. She won't be your sacrifice. But I stepped past him. I have questions. You owe me that much. Ask. Why me? Why thread me with power older than gods? Because you were born from choice, not design. Because you were not meant to be part of the pattern, and yet you became its core. And Kael. He was forged from refusal. A demon not bound by bloodlines, but by rebellion. Together, you are the flaw that became the key. Kael cursed. That sounds like prophecy. The mirror cracked. Prophecy is the excuse of tyrants. This is consequence. I stared at the threads still hovering around the loom. What happens if I become you? You anchor the weave forever. You become the memory of every possibility. No more choice. No more chaos. Only balance. And if I unmake you? Then the pattern unravels. No fate. No path. Only freedom. Kael met my eyes. I won't tell you what to choose. But I know you. You'll find a third way. And I did. I stepped into the loom, let the threads wrap around me. But I did not bind to it. I listened. I read. I pulled every fate, every broken chain, every lost voice into my core. I felt the ones who had been devoured by the gods. I heard the screams of unborn worlds, the laughter of dead stars. Then I reached for Kael. He stepped into the thread fire with me. Together, we burned the throne. Not with hatred. With memory. The loom cried out, not in agony, but in relief. The first weaver, or what remained, collapsed into light. And where the loom stood, a garden bloomed. Not of thread lilies or blood orchids. But something new. Wild. Untamed. Free. We left Ebonvale in silence. The sky above us cleared for the first time in weeks. Stars. Real stars. Kael held my hand, our bond changed but unbroken. We weren't gods. We weren't monsters. We were the ones who said no. And the tapestry would never be the same again. Chapter 27, The Ebonblade Accord. The veil split at dawn. 1,000 blackbirds rose with it, shrieking warnings only witches could understand. The ebon veil had begun to unravel, and from its torn edge, threads of forgotten promises bled into the sky like spilled ink across parchment. Kael and I stood before the Bladehold citadel, its spires forged from cursed obsidian, each one humming with the ghosts of traitors and kings. Once the seat of the first pact, a blood-forged treaty between witches and demons, now it served as the final fulcrum. The tipping point between worlds. Once we enter, I said, voice low as the wind threading through my cloak, we won't come out the same. Kael didn't answer. He stared at the great black gate, one hand on his sword, the other clenched at his side. He'd been quiet since the descent through the ebon veil. I understood why. Every step brought us closer to what we feared more than death. Not failure. But sacrifice. Do you feel it? I asked. His eyes finally met mine. Like the blades already in my chest. I reached out, pressing my hand over his heart. The heat of him steadied me. Then let's make sure it cuts the right way. Inside the Bladehold, the air reeked of war. The walls pulsed with ancient glyphs, each one a living scar of betrayal, of blood spilled, of gods and courts burned to ash. This place remembered every oath broken, and every vow upheld too late. The deeper we went, the more the architecture bled into impossibility, spiraling corridors that looped into themselves, doors that opened to mirrored memories of ancient betrayals, and floors that whispered in forgotten tongues. At the end of the long hall, A throne of razored glass loomed. Upon it sat no king. Instead, the ebon blade floated midair, pulsing with a deep, red light. Kael flinched. The blade thrummed in response, resonating with him, as if recognizing a fragment of itself. "It's calling you," I whispered. "It's calling you," he countered. "You carry thread fire now. The pact lives in your blood." The floor beneath us cracked. Shadows bled through the seams. A figure emerged from the far side of the chamber, neither demon nor witch. Something worse. A severed one. Its form was robed, stitched from the threads of banished souls. No face. Only a mask of woven teeth. It spoke in a chorus of fractured voices. "You seek to claim what was forged in betrayal. The ebon blade is not a gift. It is a debt." I stepped forward. "Then let it be paid." The severed tilted its head. "Who dies?" Kael moved beside me. "Neither of us." The severed hissed. "Then the pact remains unbalanced. The blade demands cost." Threads lashed from its body, carving runes of war into the stone. Around us, ghosts began to rise, witches and demons, the damned who died at the blade's first forging. Kael drew his sword. I called the threads to my fingertips. They charged. The first wave hit like thunder. I spun the threads into blades, slicing through spectral limbs. Kael moved like wrath incarnate, fire lacing every strike. But they kept coming. Each soul bound to the blade wanted release. Wanted blood. We were not fighting mere apparitions. Each spectre fought with memory, reciting ancient pacts, singing war songs in dead languages. One ghost wore my mother's face. Another wore Kael's father's. The ghosts were not here to kill. They were here to break us. I lunged for the ebon blade, but its power repelled me like a scorned lover. "It won't accept me." Kael snarled. "Because it still remembers who betrayed it first." He dropped his sword. "Kael." He walked into the center of the hall, toward the blade. "Don't you dare. If this is the cost." "No." I screamed. Threads snapped from my hands, coiling around his arms, trying to drag him back. The severed one laughed. "The blade chooses. The pact seals. You cannot defy it." "The hell I can't," I snarled. My thread surged, not to restrain, but to bind. Not around him. Into him. Kael's eyes widened. Confusion. Then, understanding. "Seren," he whispered. "You'll burn." "So will you," I said. "Let's do it together." Our threads joined. Flame met weave. And the ebon blade screamed. It dropped like a star into our joined hands, cleaving not flesh, but fate. A burst of black light engulfed the blade hold. The severed one shrieked, split in half, and unmade by the pack's rebirth. And when the light faded, we stood, fused by more than love. The blade had chosen us both. Later, as the wind returned and the screams ebbed into silence, Kael slumped to his knees. I caught him. His horns were longer now. My threads shimmered across his skin like inked constellations. We had been bound beyond soul. He smiled through the pain. "Still with me?" I cupped his face. "Always." We sat for a moment in the ruin of the throne room. The silence after the storm. Our hands, still joined around the hilt of the blade, trembled with shared burden. Behind the throne, another door opened. A corridor not carved from stone, but from sky. It led to the well, the source. We had claimed the blade. Now came the final war.